I want you to know that this poor woman has been on an airplane all day from LA. She left early this morning. Her flight was delayed.
And then canceled.
That she managed to get here tonight is Herculean effort. And as she said backstage, this is the audience that she wanted to never disappoint, that she was going to get here no matter what. So, Patricia Clarkson.
Also, you know, Annette, you don't disappoint, Annette. You know, you just don't. I was trains, planes, and auto. I hopped a fence, I swear to God, at LAX, because I had to leave Delta, and get to JetBlue. I hopped a fence.
Well, that is worthy of a Lilly Ledbetter, if you ask me. But you've got your own fortitude, your grit, your commitment, and by the way, your beauty after not sleeping since I've been up since hours ago or so.
I've been up 29 hours. Woo!
Well, we are grateful, and we're going to ask you a few questions. And
Yes,
we'll take a
please.
few from the audience.
Please.
And I mean, first of all, congratulations. Thank you. This is yet another, not performance, incarnation of a character. And tell us a little about the origin. Did you already know about Lilly Ledbetter? Were you at all involved in the conception of the project? The director is Rachel Feldman, who co-wrote the script. It's a first feature?
Yes, her first feature.
And it's a first feature.
Yes.
So how did that start for you?
No, it was very simple. Rachel owned the project for many years, got to know Lilly, bought the book, the rights to the book, owns the rights, and set out to make this movie. And I was actually in London shooting with the great Brendan Gleeson, you know, he's just a magical man. And I get this call, and I'm overwhelmed. I'm learning copious amounts of lines for this thing called State of the Union that we did. And I get a call that, you know, my agent called. It's just a regular call. You know, Patty, you've been offered Lilly Ledbetter. And I remember I said, Chris, what? He said, you've been offered the part of Lilly Ledbetter. Because I'm the baby of 5 daughters. My mother raised 5 daughters, 5 working women. My sisters are they're exceptional. I'm just the lowly actress. My sisters are really acclaimed and brilliant and have masters and PhDs. Well, I have a master. But
Yale Drama.
But it's from Yale.
Yale
Drama School of Drama. All right. But, I mean, my sister's a world-renowned environmental epidemiologist. But anyway, so I get this call, and my mother ran the city of New Orleans. So under the great mayor, Mitch Landry, she was president of the city council and rebuilt the city. So I have a powerhouse mother. I have 4 older sisters. They don't like it when I say older, but they are. Na-na-na-na-na. And so, you know, when I get this call, you know, this is a calling. This is a moment in my career, my life, because I've played a lot of unsavory characters, let's be honest. Didn't I last just poison my children or something? I don't know, in a Sharp Object. And so I get this call, and I just can't believe this. And I say, listen, I'll find time to read the script. I said it's going to be a quick yes. And it was. And the first call I made, and that was my mother. And she started crying. And she said, oh, my God, Patty. Finally, you're going to be in a movie everybody can see. Because I keep my clothes on. And so, no, but it was a moment in my life just saying yes to this. It was daunting, but it was just a conventional way. And then I got to know Rachel, who had extensive history and knowledge of Lilly. Beautiful. A beautiful friendship had formed there. So I relied on that, yes.
Did you get to meet Lilly?
No, this is the crazy thing. So I'm going to do actor talk, but, you know, Annette, you can't, as an actress, Lilly Ledbetter was so high on a pedestal for me. And you can't act up. You got to act equal. You got to act you know, you've got to be eye to eye with the character you have. It doesn't mean you're taking them down. It just means you're putting them in your soul, in your gut. And I thought I owed her the best of me. I owed her not to play her or portray her. I had to just be her. I had to call upon the best of myself, my mother, the great women in my life. They're all in there. And I have a lot of great women in my life. And I said, I want Lilly to be everyone. And I imprint very quickly. And so I said, listen, Lilly understood it. She was very cool. She was beautiful. And she said, we'll meet at the end. We'll meet at the end. And
she actually died
Yeah.
in October, a few days after.
We were debuting the film at the Hamptons Film Festival. Big night, a Saturday night, packed house, a beautiful theater at the town hall there. And she got sick. And, we had interviews set up. And then her amazing daughter, Vicky, that apple falls very close to the tree. Beautiful, beautiful person, Vicky. And she unfortunately got sick, and she passed 3 days after we debuted it at the Hamptons.
But at least she knew that her story
she did.
was getting out there, and that who would be playing her? The remarkable Patricia Clarkson. I mean, you don't get too much better than that. And I can imagine how, in the hands of a different director, and certainly of a different actress, there are opportunities in this movie for grand speeches, for histrionic moments. I mean, I watched this tonight the second time. I was so aware of how much restraint you exercised, especially when you're recounting what happened with the abuse of your grandfather, the mother. And it is all said in such an underplayed way that I had to lean in as opposed to having it come at me. Was that something that you discussed with the director, that you wanted to do?
Well, Lilly this was the beauty of Lilly. Lilly was she was a modest, humble, amazing human being. She was raising her children, married to the love of her life, Charles the Great, the wind beneath her wings, which we'll talk, like truly the wind beneath her wings. And, she was an ordinary human being, and and not that I love a lot of the Kennedys, but she wasn't a Kennedy. She was just a lovely woman from Possum Trot, Alabama. She had never been put in a public stage. She wasn't political, and that's the beauty of this story. This story is not. It's not red or blue. It's not north or south or east or west. It's all of us. Injustice has no race, creed, or color. And she stood for everybody in this great nation. She really did. She did.
Mm-hmm. What was the most challenging aspect of playing this character?
Well, I had to travel a couple of decades. So I had to shoot a lot. I was in every scene, I was working every day, all day, and about a month into shooting, Annette, by 7 a.m., and I'm 40, 50, 60, one day I showed up on the set, my beautiful director, Rachel, but one day, I'm just shattered. And I walk into the set, and I'm just like, and I'm in a wig, and I've got a thing, and I'm just like, Rachel, how old am I in this damn scene? How old am I? And she looked at me, she goes, Patty, you're 40. I'm like, I said, I'm ready. And that's how I had to do it,
I take it this film was not shot chronologically?
No, that's Netflix, that's studio. No, this was like, I was 4 different ages in one day,
Whoa.
But that was challenging, just to make sure I was marking women, we change radically from 40 to 60 to 70. We change, and I wanted it to be incremental, not large, and not not immediately visible. I just like, oh, she's traveled some time, But we know in our bodies. Yeah.
Yeah. And what kind of preparation when did you first hear of Lilly Ledbetter yourself?
Oh God, I would say long ago. My mother talked about her.
Wow.
And when she first started fighting for this, my mother knew about her. And maybe because of who my mother was and how invested she was in women's rights. But we used to talk about Lilly, I would say 20 years ago, like long ago. So, and her case was important to my mother. And so it was I knew about her for many, many, many years. That's why when I got the call to play her, I was shocked. I hadn't, such a historical figure, such an American hero. It's a calling,
Well,
the greatest privilege of my life to play her. Yeah.
And to get to know more about her in the case, I mean, I came across online a documentary called A Call to Act, Ledbetter versus Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. I mean, it's very short, but it recounts her fight for equal pay for equal work, which eventually involved 3 branches of government. And it was pay confidentiality. That was the issue. So it helped me understand the context of this film, the 180-day statute of limitations, and that the result was, of course, the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act of 2009. I have to confess that watching again tonight, seeing Obama and the way that he treated Lilly,
He loved her.
Nostalgia
He
just
loved
came
her.
over me.
He understood her. This was a black man from Hawaii who was 30 years her junior. He understood her strife, her struggle. He understood her for a decade. She fought, and he adored her, and that just means, it moves me every time I think about him, and what he did for her, and yeah, it's a powerful moment in our history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that we have the actual senators and congressmen. I mean, a little liberty is taken here and there.
Yes,
In fact,
yes.
having Lilly addressing the Democratic Convention, of course, it's the real Lilly,
Yes.
and then suddenly it's you.
It's me.
But it just reminded me of some of the quiet heroes that have existed in Congress, considering that these days we look at Congress in a slightly skewered way, some of us. Yeah.
Yes.
I won't go into that. But when you were approaching the character, and even when you were shooting, did you occasionally think of cinematic antecedents like Norma Ray or Silkwood?
Yes.
In other words, other real-life characters
Yes.
who had to show an incredible amount of mettle when they were being, in fact, menaced.
Yes, yes. No, but my main approach to Lilly was her emotional life and the emotional toll that it takes on someone to persevere. Change comes at a cost. I did Jesse Tyler Ferguson's podcast, wonderful, wonderful man. And when he and his now husband were fighting for marriage equality, he said, change is hard. And you have to knock on a lot of doors. And I often wonder, how are there still doors in Congress? There's been so many people knocking on them. I think they should just remove the doors. Yes, we might all be better off. And so I came to her just as a woman, as a human being with children, with the love of her life, who ultimately was getting sick, and these night shifts. I lugged tires. It was brutal. I mean, so you have to remember, when she made trouble, good trouble, but it was trouble, they put her back on that line at 60. She was lugging tires again at 60, you guys. It was brutal. It was brutal, but she had strength and stamina and perseverance, all of the attributes of a remarkable human being, but that she didn't fail her. Other people failed her, but she didn't fail. She kept her eye on the prize, and she knew, I think deep down inside, and Charles, who was in a remarkable, look, I grew up with a mother who ran a city, and when my mother finally retired, my father said, "Oh my God, there's something called dinner." And that's the truth. And you know, but this man stood by her through thick and thin, even though he was starting to fail. Him, you know, he was physically ailing, and so it was. It's also a love story. This is at the center of this is a beautiful love story. Beautiful.
It's actually tonight that I realized the extent of what you're saying, because when I first saw the film, I was so focused on Lilly and her struggle to get that fair paid. And she never even got much of the money, if I understand correctly.
She, you know, she had, you know, a huge settlement, you know, that an all-male jury took away. Oh, shocking. Okay.
Yeah, but tonight, I was more aware of the tiny moments between you and John Benjamin Hickey. There was just such a physical, affectionate quality, beginning with, you know, another type of husband might have started yelling, "What do you mean you're taking a man's job?" and not be able to come back to quiet bed. And the way that, you know, that starts, and later the car, you know, although I wanted him to get into the back seat with you.
No, so did I. I said, "Why isn't he getting in the back seat?" And Rachel said, that's a different movie. I said, well, let's make that movie. Because John Benjamin Hickey and I have known each other for 30 years. I used to date one of his best friends. And, but I had a crush on him. But anyway, no, he's a dreamboat. He's a stunning actor. You know, he's been nominated for like 14 Tonys, and he's won 3 Emmys or something. He's just a brilliant actor, and there was no one perfect. Same with Tommy Sadowski. I mean, they're both, these boys, men, very handsome, and showed up to play the girlfriend parts, which I played a lot of, and they did it with grace and humor and love, and they were the wind beneath my wings every single day on that set. They were beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. I owe them a debt of gratitude. Yeah.
Now, who do you think left the note in Lilly's locker about the pay differences?
You know, we talked about this, and you know, no one's ever known.
No one knows. Wow.
But you know who did it? We know that for a fact was a good citizen, and that's what also Lilly reminds us, that this was a really brave and stunning moment in history, that someone came forth and did this for her. Wow. But she was beloved at the plant, and so it's not shocking. She was a very good manager, you guys. She was really, really good at her damn job. She was really good. She was able, capable, intelligent, fair, lovely. She was a really, you know, Lily's not a perfect woman. None of us are. But she was really good at her job. People loved her at that plant.
Yeah. And in terms of the the secondary or tertiary, you have that Alabama congressman and the Chamber of Commerce head, Kent Kohler.
The leech.
Were these, yeah, exactly.
Burn
were
off
these
actual
characters? Or
no, they're real.
Composites?
Yeah. They're real. They're real.
And
a lot of what's in here is, she stayed as true. There's a few little side steps. It's a movie.
Right.
You know, it's not a documentary.
Although it is at moments a bit of a hybrid.
Yes.
I must confess, and I decided not to tell any of you what to look for before the film in terms of RBG. When I was watching at home the first time, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg shows up, and go, what? Because it just, I didn't know the story of her role in this true case. And then when she recurs, I remember turning to Mark and I said something like, it's a Greek chorus. She keeps coming back and giving me the context.
But we keep thinking, you know, this wasn't 100 years ago, this wasn't 80, this was 20 years ago. I mean, this is recent history. And to think that it took us till 2009 to get the Fair Pay Act, that women were, but it's also that, you know, and this film also, it's like a smorgasbord of injustices, because she was suffering ageism, sexism, misogyny across the board. So it it was a fight on many levels, and it wasn't just about money. It was about dignity and acceptance, and I think which Joe Biden talked a lot about, dignity and having a job, the dignity in our job. God, where's Joe Biden? Anyway, but I that's what was powerful to me, is it was all encompassing what she suffered in this job, and it's, I hope everyone sees themselves in it. I hope you did.
When you got the script, was the personal intervention of RBG already there? In other words,
no,
that was added afterwards.
That was a thought afterwards, to kind of like make sure people know this is contemporary, this is present day, this is right now, and it's also, she was such a devoted, powerful figure, and she really, again, Lilly inspired profound love and profound adoration from people, and she was just when she walked out of the DNC, and she was like, a grandmother from, Alabama. What am I doing here? And it was just the beauty of her, knowing that as understated as she was, she owned the room. She did, because her story was true and real and genuine and hard fought.
Right. It's also worth mentioning that in 2007, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was, I think, the only woman on the Supreme Court. I mean, it's hard to remember that.
We forget. I mean, things have really only changed recently in our lives. Yeah. I mean, I think of the change in Hollywood. When I think back to like the first movie I did, oh my goodness. Even my makeup artist was a man.
But she is given the opportunity to put your story, Lily's story. For me, you are Lilly right now, still, in a context, and to say things that even transcend the specific story of Lily's political efforts. She says at one point, you put women on a pedestal until it becomes a cage.
Yes.
And I found that a remarkable perception.
Unbelievable. And that's why we ultimately, the editor or the director made the decision to really include this, and it just brings it all back to us. And I don't think there's anything wrong in a movie to have real people, when they're that powerful, because I think it. Didn't you love it? Didn't you like seeing Ruth Bader Ginsburg? Yes, yeah.
I think a lot of us went, oh,
yeah.
She's still with us, kind of.
And we're reminded, and maybe some young people in the audience, they were like, oh my God, how powerful it was.
And the lawyer, Thomas Sadowski's character, makes the important point that it's rare in the Supreme Court decisions. I mean, it was Justice Alito who read the majority rule, but to address, to make your dissent publicly from the bench, that's a rarity. In other words, RBG was absolutely concerned with making this a public cause, something that ordinary people would hear and act upon.
Again, I think just the grave injustice was beyond the pale to her. And again, this is what people started to realize in Obama, and President Obama stepped in. People were starting to realize, my God, this woman really needs her day.
Right.
And she got it.
Yep. Now, I'm remembering a Q&A session that I attended of yours. It was at the New Plaza Cinema about 2 years ago for a wonderful little independent film called Monica. And you showed up to do a Q&A. And I remember something you said, which surprised me a little bit, that you really don't like to do a lot of rehearsal. Because you're always so extraordinary that I keep thinking, how much rehearsal does one have to do to completely become this character and not do any mannerisms or artifice, but just kind of let the character breathe in front of the camera. So for this, was there not much rehearsal?
No, not much rehearsal. Well, first of all, we didn't have the time or the money. So we had to show up ready to go. We were shooting pretty quickly, and no, I do my homework. I do a lot of emotional work at home. I'm very prepared. I'm never late on a set. It's respectful, and so I show up ready to go, and I like to be a little caught off guard, and I like the uncertainty of maybe John's going to do something, or Tommy, or someone in the scene, my daughter, someone's going to do something. And Rachel started to really like that. I think Rachel was more of a rehearsal, but she liked that, you know, we were kind of loosey-goosey. And it's just how I work. But I do a lot of work at home.
And do you prefer when there are a lot of takes so that you can try different things? Or what was the ratio here?
No, you know, this wasn't a studio film where you can do 30 takes. No. No, we had the luxury. Sometimes some of the stuff in this film, oh, this is so...
There it is.
Oh, can I just stay here all night?
As long as you want.
This is so beautiful. Thank you, 92nd Street Y. This is lovely. No, you know, what were you talking? A senior moment.
No, it's quite all right now. I got lost in the image behind me. Whether there were a lot of takes.
No, we didn't. No, there were some of the things in the film are 2 takes. You know, it's one of the choice of 2 takes or 3. Occasionally, when it was involving a lot of here and there, you know, a lot of camera move, we had to do quite a few takes. But that was usually because of the camera move.
Right.
So.
And I also at some point, I started getting the feeling that this was at one time a longer film. And I say that because I know that we're working our way towards the climactic part, the dramatic part, in which Lily faces
off. And most people know how it ends, so yes.
That too.
Yes.
In other words, you jump from, the movie jumps, from when she's starting at Goodyear when it's 10 years later. Was there a longer version, or is this pretty much?
There were you know, you shoot a lot in a film, and not everything ends up. So there were a few things, you know, there were some things left out, yes, of course. Because when you start to edit, you know, you are thinking of the whole and not the individual moments. But yeah, there are a couple of things on the cutting room floor.
That, yeah, we often hear that expression, kill your darlings.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, sometimes is true for actors when they see what happens as it is for the filmmakers.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about the amazing directors with whom you have worked. And by the way, many of them female, more so than with some of the other
quite a few female
performers. I mean, and I'm curious how you would compare working with first-timer Rachel Feldman compared to Lisa Cholodenko, who was also a first-timer.
But she was, yes, my first time too.
Exactly.
When I was doing high art, which changed my whole career, playing a German lesbian heroin addict.
Yep.
It just was fabulous. It was the highlight of my life. It really changed my life. And Lisa was a first time, you know the famous story I told about my aunt. So high art comes out, it's like 2000, and my mother takes my great Aunt Patsy, my namesake, to see high art in New Orleans. She's 80, and she calls me the next day, and she's like, Patty, you were wonderful, wonderful. But if a director told me I had to play a German lesbian heroin addict, I would have told that director, I can play one of the 3. I swear to God, that's my namesake, my Aunt Patsy. I mean, it's my favorite thing anyone's ever told me in my life.
And that was when I first saw you and knew it was, in other words, I thought it was a German actress while I was watching the film. I had no idea it was an American actress. And I looked you up and I saw, ooh, I have to keep my eye out on this one. And every time you were in a film, sometimes you elevated the film, and sometimes you were at the high level that it was already. And Lisa Cholodenko is a graduate of Columbia's film program.
And a brilliant, amazing woman, and a real true talent in Hollywood. Her own voice, her own beautiful writing. She's the bomb. She's a
Yeah.
remarkable woman.
And you've worked a few times with Isabelle Coichet, who Elegy and the Bookshop.
Learning to Drive.
And Learning to Drive.
Yes, with Sir Ben, yeah.
So, although
you know when the first time I met Isabel, now that we're talking, I'm playing Sir Ben's lover. And literally the first scene I shot, I was naked on top of Sir Ben Kingsley. I said, hello, Sir Ben. I'm not kidding you. I am not kidding you. Oh my God, but Isabel was so divine. And she's Catalan. She's not Spanish, she's Catalan. And I've worked with her 3 times, and I work with her again the rest of my life.
And I actually heard a rumor, no, it's on IMDb, that your next film might be with her.
Well, we don't, we're always trying to work together. We're always trying to work together, yes.
And there's Woody Allen, Vicky Cristina Barcelona, and Whatever Works, George Clooney with Good Night and Good Luck, Todd Haynes, Far From Heaven, Sean Penn directed you in The Pledge, and then there's, and Scorsese.
That little-known director, yes. That was because I was shooting Woody and Marty at the same time, and I had to leave Woody to go to Marty. And Woody was like, you better come back. I said, make sure Marty gets you back. So I had to shoot on Woody's set, and a car picked me up and drove me to Boston, which is where I was shooting Shutter Island. And I shot a long time on that one scene in the cave. Woo! And, but he's masterful. He loves actors.
You're talking about
Marty. Well, Woody was great, but Marty was, he just loves actors. He just wants to watch us. I would rather watch paint dry, but yes.
Well, when you say he loves actors, does that manifest itself in concrete things like asking if you want another take, or consulting with you before a shot?
What do you think? What if you, what if you do that? What if you do that? Or just do whatever you think. Like, he's just always creative. He's just a creative vessel, and he's always thinking about the scene, thinking about the actors in the scene. He's so present. It's astonishing. Yeah.
We had him as a guest in Real Pieces about a year ago downstairs. Killers of the Flower Moon clips. And he's also one of the most extraordinary cinephiles I've ever met.
Oh.
He knows every
No,
film
he's
that's
seen
ever
every
been made.
single film that's ever been made. It's weird.
How he has time to then actually make films. You wonder, because he sees it all.
And he loves TCM. He watches. He loves old movies, but he sees contemporary movies all. I mean, he's real. He loves watching movies. It's just of all.
I just found out that he's going to come to the DGA on a Wednesday night at the end of May 28th, because the New York Polish Film Festival is going to show 6 films by the great Andrzej Wajda, one of my favorite directors of all time. I show his Ashes of Diamonds every year. And the head of the festival, Hanna Hartowicz, she tells me, Scorsese just said he wants to come and introduce the film. This is one of the busiest men on the planet.
Yeah, but this is who he is. It's just who he is. It's just who he is.
Yeah.
He's the real thing.
I have so many more questions for you, but we know it's getting late, and I want to get some of the audience questions, because I suspect that some of you may want to ask a question or two of your own. We've got one straight ahead here.
No.
Made it so, like, you're just jumping from right to left, from left to right. It's like, why do we have to do that?
Why can't people just acknowledge that this isn't right or left, this isn't Democrat, Republican, this is about injustice. It's that simple. And everybody has, a mother, a sister, everybody, we're all here because of women. So, I mean, we all came out of women, But, thank you.
Film, and I guess that my question, if there was one, was how are you taking this on the road? What's the plan?
What's the release plan for the film?
Well, we've been, since the Hamptons, we've taken it, the director and I, my wonderful, wonderful director, Rachel, we've taken it, from the Hamptons. I went to Denver, it got the Cassavetes Award in Denver.
Yes.
Which, is, that's important.
Yeah, a Cassavetes Award means a lot to actors.
So to Denver, but huge reception across this great country. You guys, everywhere. We've taken it many, 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 many places. And that's just grassroots.
But I want to acknowledge and tell your friends, it opens theatrically this coming Friday.
Yes, here in
it
New
is
York.
opening,
Tell everybody to go see it. Please, please, please,
And
please.
maybe somebody can update me. I know it's opening at the Quad Cinema
Yes,
because you're
but
doing
I think
Q&As there.
it might be opening uptown too. I have to check. But pack those theaters.
Yes.
Yeah. It might be opening uptown. I'm not sure.
I actually, the only one I know for sure is
the Quad. I know
but
it's at the
if other
Quad.
people wish to see Lily, tell them to just check IMDb.
And it's
or
opening a
something.
few places outside this, right outside the city. So, but it's a small, really. We don't. This isn't a Netflix film, but maybe they'll buy it. And so, we need people going to the theater.
Yeah. There is somebody, I see one straight ahead and then one on the upper right from me.
Hi, my name is Lilly. I love seeing you in this film, but Lily, she faces so many defeats and no's in this experience, and has to persevere so diligently. How did you take her perseverance and apply that into your own life, and how are you using that?
The question
Yeah.
from Zoe is, Lily had to face so many no's and disappointments and rejections and had to persevere. How did you take that perseverance that you played into your own life?
I hopped a fence to get here. And I've hopped a lot of fences, because we don't have a big distributor. This has been, but shooting this movie, we've had to all persevere because, when you're shooting an independent film, it's tough, it's arduous. You have to really put your nose to the grind. You have to really, you can't be selfish, you can't be a diva, you have to just shoot. And so, but the spirit, I'd always remind myself, Patty, shut up and shoot. Shut up and shoot. This is for Lilly Ledbetter. I'm exhausted, and I say just this is for Lily, because look at what she did. It was very simple, very simple. But I was also kind of raised that way with my mother. My mother raised 5 very strong daughters, very strong.
There?
One, thank you for coming, and did you hop the fence in the heels?
No. I would love to say yes, but I put these on in the car as we were speeding down the parkway. I opened up my suitcases in the back of the luggage because I wanted to look nice for you guys. And I'm a Southern girl, and I need my heels, and I need my hair and my makeup. So I put my shoes on in the car, and the man's driving, and I'm like, no, I had on tennis shoes. I haven't watched, because I've literally been working I've been doing so much work on Lily, I'll be honest with you guys. And I'm kind of a news junkie. And the other thing I'm only really addicted to is Dancing with the Stars. Look, I have 2 of my best friends here. Am I a Dancing with the Stars fanatic? Yes.
Somebody's got to write you a part that includes dancing and comedy.
Well, yes.
that would be very good. I think I saw one on the left. Was it? No, I didn't. Forgive me, because without. Oh, yes, straight up there.
I love your work, and you were amazing in the film.
Thank you.
One of Annette's students.
Oh.
But I would love to learn more about, you're working with a first-time female director. I would love to learn a little bit about your takeaways with working with someone who is still learning how to make a feature film and doing such a
It's a great question.
Yeah, your takeaways from working with a first-time female filmmaker.
But remember, I've worked with many. Lisa Cholodenko, Tom McCarthy, I did Station Agent, Peter Hedges, Pieces of April. So I've worked with quite a few first-time directors. And this is the funny thing. I think the best way to work with first-time directors is not to think of them as first-time directors. You must put your faith and belief in that person, whether they have directed 50 films or one or none. You have to, because I am an actor's director, I am a director's actor. I really deeply rely and coexist with the director on a set. They are essential to me. And so I'm not bothered by a first-time director. I wouldn't have taken the job. I've met them, I've sat down with them. I clearly, you know, Rachel had such a profound love and understanding of Lilly herself, this material, her life. And so she was just, you know, she had so much wisdom about Lilly. So I would check in with her. I would say, how would she really react to this? How would she really, and she would be like, you know, Patty, I think she's this. So I relied heavily on her. I just looked at her as just another, you know, great director I'm working with. It's a beautiful project. I'm here. I get to play, you know, make my mother proud.
And actually, off of that question, I mean, precisely because you have played sometimes, shall we say...
unsavory?
Okay, I'll take that. Not just the lesbian, heroin addict, whatever. But I'm thinking, I loved your performance in Whatever Works as a rather effusive Southern lady who likes her bourbon. Do you actively seek roles like Lilly, which have a certain weight? No.
No, I mean, I like playing. I loved The Woman in Sharp Objects, and that was a really brutal character, brutal. A woman deeply mentally ill, but you have to love everybody you play. Again, you can't put anybody high, you can't put anybody low. You got to put everybody right where you live. Because acting, if you're just acting, you know, everybody has to enter you. And however you do that, that's how you, I hope, succeed. But I have to tell you a funny thing about Whatever Works. So, you know, I'm playing this deeply Southern woman, and a lot is based on my mother. So my mother used to set her hair on like 2 sets of hot curlers every day. And so my hair is seriously this big. And so we have the premiere, and they're walking out, and my mother and my father, who's Buzz, are walking out of the theater. And one of my other besties, Ricky, is right behind her. And my mother turns to my father, and she says, Buzz, Patty's hair was gorgeous, gorgeous. Why doesn't she wear her hair like that more often? I love my mother passed and didn't see the film.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I've had to live with that, but it's rough. It's been rough, isn't it? It's been a rough time. Yeah, I was in London doing this little play called Long Day's Journey into Night.
I'm still so in awe of your film work. I haven't even mentioned. I hope some of you know about, first of all, the stage career, because right after Yale Drama School, you were in The House of Blue Leaves,
yes,
which was also the acting debut, if I'm not mistaken, of Ben Stiller. That's the first time I ever saw him.
Yes.
And it was with John Mahoney.
John Mahoney,
and then,
Kurtz,
you know,
Stockard Channing, yes, amazing.
That too. Yeah. And then you played Blanche in Streetcar Named Desire at the Kennedy Center.
And let me tell you, Mary Tyrone eats Blanche's lunch, because Mary Tyrone is brutal. Mary Tyrone in Long Day's Journey, so I was
Which
opposite.
You've been doing with Brendan Gleeson.
No.
I mean, Brian Cox.
With Brian Cox, I did. I just did this in London, and it was a remarkable experience. Remarkable to take on O'Neill, but I'm glad I'm not doing Mary Tyrone right now. I kind of feel like Mary Tyrone
right now. Well, and also, you know, a little.
Minus the morphine. I play a lot of drug addicts, and let me tell you something. I've never even smoked pot. I mean, I'm not kidding you. I've never even smoked pot. I do like bourbon, though.
You also did a little thing on Broadway for which you got a Tony nomination called The Elephant Man alongside Bradley Cooper.
Naked
and
Every
Alessandro
Night with
Nicola.
Bradley Cooper.
And then they went to London. They took that to London.
We started it at Williamstown, brought it to Broadway, and then we went to London. It was beautiful, beautiful experience. Yeah, I've worked with, my life is rough. I've worked with Bradley Cooper and George Clooney. It's really rough. It's rough.
We have high-class problems when we talk like that.
Yes, very high-class problems.
And I should just mention, because soon we're going to wrap up, because I have a feeling you could use some sleep. TV, I mean, your television work, you did earn a Golden Globe for Sharp Objects in 2018, and you had a recurring role in House of Cards.
I loved I loved my character in House of Cards. Oh, I loved her, Jane. Ooh,
Yeah.
I loved her little skirts and her little, and I said, don't get me a fancy purse. Get me a purse that's like utilitarian. Get me like a bag, like a purse that's maybe vinyl. Get me a purse. I don't know. I love Jane. I love that character. It was beautifully written.
Yeah.
Beautifully written character.
Well, the creator of the American version is Bo Willimon.
Yes.
Another graduate of Columbia School of the
Yeah.
Arts, another former student of mine.
Brilliant writer.
I'm very
brilliant.
proud of them. And then for HBO's 6 Feet Under, you won 2 Emmys in 2002 and 2006. One of the only series that I actually have watched in my life. I watch like a movie every night, so it's very hard for me to commit to a series. But I remember that with 6 Feet Under, I saw one episode and I got hooked. So there you go. And finally, you won your 3rd Emmy for State of the Union alongside Brendan Gleeson.
The beautiful Brendan Gleeson.
Although I must confess, because my husband Mark turned me on a few years ago to reruns of Frasier. And when I saw you in an episode with Kelsey Grammer.
I played one of his girlfriends.
I
Sometimes
thought,
that's all people recognize me from. And I'm like, thank you, but I've done a few things.
but it worked. I mean, you realize, poor
Kelsey.
Frasier, if he loses you.
No, I know. I was his girlfriend for 4 episodes. But Kelsey was lovely. He was lovely. Yeah. Lovely man.
We have time for one more question. I see,
good.
well, there are actually a few back there. All right, maybe we'll take 2. The gentleman on the right-hand side there, in the dark shirt and then in the back.
Patricia, I'm super curious. With a movie this powerful, it allows you to relate to a large number of different people. I'm curious, as you've been able to show the movie in various different places, what other powerful individuals you kind of discovered along the way?
Which other powerful individuals have you discovered along the way in bringing the story of Lilly to various audiences?
You mean people who have seen the film and come to talk, Well, I'll tell you, I had a remarkable moment in Denver, and a transgender legislator came up to me and started crying. And she said, "This is my story too. This is my story." And that happens, it's very emotional for me, because I've met some really beautiful people along the way that have suffered such indignities and such injustice. And so they tell me afterwards their stories, and it's been many. And so I'm just the lucky receiver of all of these beautiful stories, people who have really been touched and marked by this film. And this beautiful artist who made this Breaking the Glass Ceiling pin for me, Hillary, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Michelle Obama, just these beautiful moments in my life, this beautiful artist. And it's just been a remarkable time for me. Thank you for that question. It's nice.
And all the way up there?
My God, do you want to be my agent? I have a great one. I have a beautiful agent.
In addition to calling Patricia's work translucid, was it? Which I appreciate. How do you interact? Like, does art become life and life become art when you're playing scenes, for example, in Lilly, the death of the husband? And how do you step back from the role when you feel you need to?
I think I can do both. I mean, yes, of course, my life informs. I use as much of myself and the people around me in a film. And sometimes I'm calling on the best of myself, and sometimes I'm calling on the worst of myself. And so I'm a mercurial person by nature. You can ask my friend. And so I have to temper it. You know, I do. Lilly was tough, and it required so much of me every single day on that set. So I had to, you know, take a breath, live a little, you know. But I was always making sure she was not far behind, that she wasn't too far from me. It's a little bit of a shadow that I keep close. You know, if I exercise my devils, my angels might leave too. So I keep everybody close. And yeah, she stays close, but you know, she'll stay with me. She's with me the rest of my life. Lilly. She is.
Oh.
Yeah.
We'd love to keep you longer, but I just want a special thank you for the Herculean effort made to be with us tonight and for illuminating, entertaining. We really appreciate, Patricia, that you're here. Thank you.
I love Annette. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.